Alright, so integration by completing the square. So here, this is how it's given to you in the N6 exam, N6 syllabus. So in N5, remember, all we had to do was simply apply the formula straight from the formula sheet. Now, what we're going to do is, we first need to complete the square. Alright, so let's redo this completing the square. So what we need to do is transfer this information here. You're going to get marks for this. So remember, let's write it down in order. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So that will be minus 4x squared minus 4x plus 24. Alright, so completing the square, step number 1 is to ensure that the coefficient of x squared is positive 1. So clearly this is not a positive 1, so we will have to take out a common factor. So my common factor here is minus 4. So if I take out minus 4, that means minus 4 divided by minus 4 is a positive 1. And that's what we want. We always want the coefficient of x squared to be positive 1. Here minus 4 divided by minus 4, again positive 1. And then we have 24 divided by minus 4, which is minus 6. Right, so now that's just taking out a common factor. Now completing the square, what we're going to do is make sure this is in order of ax squared plus bx plus c. So you will copy down our x squared plus x, your ax squared plus bx. And then in between these two terms, you will always put down plus half the coefficient of x squared minus half the coefficient of x squared. And then your constant, you can just copy it down here, which is minus 6. Right, so what happened here in between the bx and c, you must write down always a plus first, a minus second. Right, so what am I saying? Half the coefficient of x. So what is the coefficient of x here? It's 1. So basically, the coefficient of x divided by 2. So that's going to be 1 over 2, 1 over 2. Right, so now, after you do that, then you count the first 3 terms. The first 3 terms are in this order here. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Term 1, term 2, and term 3. So there's it here, and this will be factorized in one step. A plus b all squared. So this is what we need to do next. Okay, so now here's my a squared, my 2ab, and there's my plus b squared. So you will count the first 3 terms, 1, 2, 3, and factorize it in one step. Okay, no matter what example it is. You don't have to think too hard. All you do is insert your brackets, your exponent there, and now a squared, in this case it's x squared, so that will be x. B squared, in this case it's half squared, so it will be plus half squared. Right, now what we can do is work this out. So that's going to be minus 1 over 4 minus 6, which is minus 25 over 4. Okay, now from this stage here, what we can do is multiply. Remember, we took out a common factor, so let's multiply that common factor back inside. Right, so we have 2 terms, term 1 and term 2. So it will be minus 4 times the first term, so that's minus 4 times x plus 1 over 2 all squared. And a negative times a negative there, which is a positive 25. Right, so now if you go to your N6 formula sheet, you'll notice that there is no formula that will start off with a negative. Okay, so what you're going to do is swap the arrangement here. So write it as 25 minus 4 times x plus 1 over 2 squared. So now we want to rewrite everything as squares. So 25 can be written as 5 squared, 4 can be written as 2 squared, and that's x plus 1 over 2 all squared. Alright, so that's ready now for substitution. Now, there is a different way also to deal with this. If we go back, let's call this method number 2. Right, so method number 2 is doing almost the same thing. The focus is on this part here. Right, so before I go and use the formula, let's go back to this step over here. So now, let me just copy that down. So what do we have here? We got our minus 4. And then we have minus 25 over 4. Right, so if we go back to that specific step here. Right, there is another way to multiply. So instead of multiplying the constants 4, all you can do is multiply the negative 1 back inside. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we can leave, so from here I'm going down, I can leave 4 there and then multiply minus 1 times term 1, so that's going to be minus x plus 1 over 2 all squared, negative 1 times term 2, so that will be plus 25 over 4. Alright, so how will this look now? So from here to there, I got my 4 there. I still have to rearrange the terms because of the negative in front. There is no formula that will start with a negative, so I'm going to rearrange it. So that will be 25 over 4 minus x plus 1 over 2 all squared. So now I have my 4 there, 25 over 4. I can rewrite it as 5 over 2 all squared, because 5 squared is 25 and 2 squared is 4, minus 1 squared times x plus 1 over 2 all squared. Right, so remember there's actually a 1 in front here. So now we have 2 versions now, 2 different ways to deal with this here. So there's this second one and there's the first one. Right, so now you go to your formula sheets and this is the formula that you are looking for. So you got the integral of the square root of a squared minus b squared x squared. You must recognize that out of the 6 formulas that you have, this is the only one that will work. Okay. If you chose any other formula, you are wrong, completely wrong. That means you are making a mistake, you're not identifying, maybe your signs are wrong there. Okay, so be careful. Right, this is the formula that's going to work here. So let's go with option number 1 first. So let me label this as option 1. And this one here is option 2. Alright, so let's go with option 1 first, the one that we did yesterday. So option number 1 now, we will substitute. So A, okay, let's go, there's it there. That is my 5 squared minus 2 squared times x plus 1 over 2 all squared dx. Right, so here, once we have that, you identify your A, which is 5, your B, which is, so there's A, which is 5, B, which is 2, and X is represented by X plus 1 over 2. Right, that is option number 1. So the formula here is a squared over 2b times inverse sine bx over a plus x over 2 times the square root of a squared minus b squared x squared plus c. Alright, that is a formula that you see on your formula sheet. So now let's do the substitution for option number 1. So my a here is 5, so that's going to be 5 squared, and that will be 2 times 2 times inverse sine bx. So that's going to be 2 times your x there, which is x plus 1 over 2 divided by a, which is 5. So all I'm doing is, this is the easy part, which is substituting. So now we got plus x over 2, x is x plus 1 over 2 divided by 2 times the square root of the same thing that we just have there now, which is 25 minus 4 times x plus 1 over 2 all squared. We don't have to rewrite this as 5 squared now, it's pointless to go and write 25 as 5 squared. We only did that because we wanted to identify our a and b, complete the square and substitute. Right, so now 5 squared is 25, 2 times 2 there is 4 times inverse sine. So now here, if you look at your textbook final answer, certain parts of this here are simplified. So you will not see this part here as you see it now. So I'm going to simplify this here. Let me just do this on the side. So what do I have there? So I've got 2 times x plus half. Okay. So this is a simple thing to do. 2 times x will be 2x. 2 times 1 over 2 is just 1. You're clear with that? Removing brackets. So therefore this will be 2x plus 1 all over 5. It's just the top part which needed to be multiplied. Can you see that? Here, what do we have here? Right, so here I got x plus half divided by 2. I'm going to simplify that part there also. So I got x plus half. This can be written as, if I find an LCD in the top there, it's going to be 2x plus 1 over 2, all divided by 2. So my LCD here is 2, so that's 2x plus 1 over 2, all divided by 2, which will now equal to 2x plus 1 divided by 2. So what I'm going to do is invert and multiply, so you're going to get times 1 over 2, which is 4. You can do that in your head or check in your calculator. Right, so now this is going to be 2x plus 1 over 4 times the square root of 25 minus 4 times x plus half all squared plus c. So that is option number 1. Alright, let's do option number 2, because you will see in the exam memos there's different methods here to deal with this. It's up to you which one you want to choose. Okay. The main thing is to complete the square. You must know your school work, your grade 11 work. Complete the square, or N3 work. Alright, so let's go with option 2. Option 2 was taking this, using this one here. So now remember I have the square root of a squared minus b squared x squared dx. So this is the square root. Now all I'm going to do is take this instead of the other one. Right, so that will be 4, and then we have 5 over 2 squared minus 1 squared times x plus half all squared dx. So in this case, I left 4 there, but But now I need to go one step further and simplify this. So how am I going to do this? I need to, again, you have to remember your basic maths here. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. So how do you simplify? This is simplifying surds now. You're going back to N3. Okay, if anything was not sorted out in N3, it's going to give you a problem here in N6. Alright, so what do I mean? If I got the square root of 4 times, let's say, x plus 2. And if I want to simplify this without a calculator, then we use our exponent laws. This can be written as the square root of 4 times the square root of x plus 2. This is allowed because of multiplication that's happening here. Can you see that? If there was a plus sign separating the terms, then you cannot apply the rule. So here, the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of x plus 2, you cannot do anything further. Right? So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So what is the multiplication that's happening here? It's 4, and there's times and the whole thing there. So I'm going to split it up into square root of 4, which is 2. So there's my square root of 4, which is 2. Times the square root of, and then we have our 5 over 2 squared minus 1 squared times x plus half all squared dx. And now it's ready for substitution. So in this case, my a is 5 over 2, my b here is 1, and my x is equal to x plus half. So now I'm going to do the substitution. So I got my 2 there, open bracket, because it's 2 being multiplied by everything there. So the formula is a squared, so that's going to be 5 over 2 squared. That's a squared, there's a formula in front of you, divided by 2b, so that's 2 times 1. And then I have inverse sine bx over a, so that's 1 times x plus half all over 5 over 2. That's my b times x over a. And then we got plus x over 2 plus x plus half all over 2 times the square root of the same thing that we have here, which is 25 over 4 minus x plus half all squared, close bracket, plus c. So this is option number 2. I'm just going to simplify. The main job is done now. Right, so now I'm going to simplify. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to multiply the 2 inside. So 2 and 2 will cancel. So I end up with just 25 over 4 times inverse sine. I'm going to simplify this here also. So my LCD, I think I did show you here. If I simplify the numerator, it's going to be 2x plus 1 over 2. And the denominator is 5 over 2. Okay, so if I invert and multiply, it's going to become 2x plus 1 over 5. You can write that down. Okay, your 2 and 2 will cancel because we are dealing with fractions there. Here, this 2 is also needs to be multiplied by term number 2. 2 and 2 cancel, so we just got x plus half times the square root of 25 over 4 minus x plus half all squared plus c. So both versions are correct. It's up to you. The easy part is just to substitute. The main thing is to complete the square and make sure you choose the correct formula. It's only 3 to 4 marks for this year. Okay, but if you think this is hard, you're in the wrong course here. Alright. So chapter 5, 3 to 4 marks will be very difficult to get. Okay, here it's just schoolwork. If you know your grade 11, completing the square, you can complete the square, and now you're just playing a game. You're basically looking at the formula sheet and you're playing a matching game. That's what it is. Okay, so you cannot get this wrong. You're not allowed to get it wrong. Right. So we deal with the next one just now. Right, our next one is a fraction. The denominator has a square root. Okay, so you're going to go to your formula sheets and then you're going to check. Now, at the moment, you won't be able to tell until you complete the square. You need to complete the square in order to tell which one is the correct formula. So completing the square, it's just the numbers that change. Okay, here it's a -1. The previous example, it was a -4. This is a 4. The other example, it's just the numbers that change. You need to master the technique or algorithm, it's called, for working this out. It's a set method, okay, no matter what the numbers are. So step number 1 is always make the coefficient of x squared +1. You do that by taking out a common factor. So you take out your -1. Remember, you are taking out a common factor, yeah? You don't go and divide everything, yeah? And the -1 disappears. Then your mark will also disappear. Right, so you take out -1 as a common factor. So now, minus x squared or -1 divided by -1 will give you the +1. X squared minus 4 divided by, 4 divided by -1. What will that be? -4. Okay. So -1 times -4 will give you +4. You can see that. Then we got -5. But basically, simple way is when you take out a negative, all the signs will change. You don't have to think too hard about that. When you take out a negative sign, all the signs will change. So check it. If it was a negative, it becomes positive. If it was a positive, it becomes negative. This was a positive, it became negative. Okay. Now, that's a simple thing to do. Let's complete the square. So how do you complete the square? Copy this down in order. Ax squared, so which is x squared minus 4x. Then always plus half the coefficient of x squared minus half the coefficient of x squared. And then you copy down your last term there, which is -5. You must put a plus first and a minus second. It doesn't work any other way. Right, a positive first, negative second. So what is the coefficient of x? The coefficient of x is -4. So all you do is take that coefficient and divide it by 2. That's what half means, divide by 2. -4 divided by 2. You can just write down the -2 straight. Okay, it's just that I'm teaching you now, I'm showing you every single step here. Now, we're going to -1. So that's x squared minus 4x plus -4 divided by 2 is -2 all squared minus -2 all squared minus 5. Okay. So now comes the parts where you actually complete the square there. So you count the first 3 terms. Always the first 3 terms. Right, the first 3 terms I just showed you previously. This is your ax, your a squared plus -2ab plus, what was the previous one? The previous one I had was a plus. This is a negative here. So this is in the form a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, which will always be factorized like this, a minus b all squared. So this is the first line here, and we move from there to there. That's factorization. Right, so that's exactly what we need to do there. So that will be x, my a is x, my b is the same number that you wrote inside the bracket there, which is -2. A common mistake is to forget the sign. You make sure, because if you forget the sign, everything goes wrong. You'll choose the wrong formula also. So that is sorted, and then minus, so you can work this out. It's going to be -4 minus 5, which is -9. Now, you took out a negative, you must multiply the negative back inside. So that will be -1 times term 1, which is -1 times x minus 2 all squared. -1 times -9 is a +9. So now, no formula will start with a coefficient of a negative. So, swap it. be 9 minus 1 times x minus 2 all squared. Now let's rewrite them as perfect squares there. So that's 9 will be 3 squared, 1 is 1 squared, x minus 2 all squared. That's done. You completed the square. Now you will go to your formula sheets and you choose the correct formula. So this is what you are looking for. Okay, you are looking for a fraction with a square root there. Okay, it's a fraction. The denominator has a square root and there's a negative sign separating the two terms. And what's on the left of the negative sign is your constant squared, and here on the right will be your b squared times x squared. So that is the formula. If you're looking at any other formula, it is wrong. Okay, this is the one to use. So the formula here is 1 over b times inverse sine dx over a plus c. That is the one that we are using here. Alright, so now let's go and do the substitution there. So that's going to be 2 divided by the square root of 3 squared minus 1 squared times x minus 2 all squared dx. Okay, so my a is 3 here, you can see that. My b is 1 and x is x minus 2. So therefore, this is equal to 1 over b, which is just 1 over 1. Inverse sine or arc sine bx, so that's 1 times x minus 2 all over a, which is 3 plus c. Easy, it's done. So that's going to be inverse sine x minus 2 over 3 plus c. That's it. Completing the square. Simple. Right, so as I said, this specific example here, you will not find in the textbook that you are using now, but you will find it in the exam. It might be under this is chapter 2 integration, or you might find questions like this of this nature in the last chapter, chapter 6, which is arc length and surface area. Okay, where it involves a combination of differentiation and integration, and certain examples you might have to complete the square. Now, right, so what do we have to do now? We have to complete the square. Remember, you're going to get marks for completing the square, so let's transfer our information here. So this is completing the square. Right, so what do we have? We have, you will take the quadratic, which is 4x squared plus 8x minus 5, and complete the square. So what is the method of completing the square? You know, it's the same method all the time. It's the same algorithm, same method, I mean. So it's just that the numbers are changing all the time. So step number 1 is always make sure or ensure that the coefficient of x squared is positive 1. This is not positive 1. So if it is not, you pull out a common factor. There's no dividing by anything here. You're pulling out a common factor. So this is equal to, I will take out 4 as a common factor there. So now 4 divided by 4 will give you the 1 there. And this is what we want. We always want the coefficient of x squared to be positive 1. Right. So now 8 divided by 4 will give you 2, and minus 5 divided by 4 is minus 5 over 4. As it is. Double check. Multiply. 4 times x squared is 4x squared. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times minus 5 over 4. 4 and 4 cancel. You end up with minus 5. Okay. Now, that's complete. That is taking out a common factor. Now, the method of completing the square. Remember, this must be in proper order. The order is ax squared, bx, c. Don't mix up anything. Alright. So you will copy these terms down, x squared plus 2x, and then after your bx, you will always have plus half the coefficient of x squared minus half the coefficient of x squared, and then you copy down your constant. Your constant is minus 5 over 4. Close brackets there because of the open bracket that we have there for our common factor. Right. Now, what goes here is half the coefficient of x. That means the coefficient of x divided by 2. So what is the coefficient of x? The coefficient of, there's x here, this is not x, this is read as x squared. Right, this is x. So the coefficient here is 2. So you take that 2 and you divide it, whatever it is, divided by 2. Okay. Now let's just simplify that. So that's going to be 4, and that's x squared plus 2x plus 1 squared minus 1 squared minus 5 over 4. Alright, now you did that. You will count the first 3 terms, which is your trinomial here. 1, 2, 3. And in this case, it has a plus sign here. So if it is a plus sign, it's in the form a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, which will be factorized. A plus b all squared one time in one step. You don't have to think too hard about that. It will always be like that. Now, let's do this here. So that's 4. So what am I saying now? A squared, x squared. So my a in this case here is x. So that's going to be x. Then you look at the last one here, b squared. There's my b squared. Can you see that? 1, 2, 3. There's it. 1, 2, 3. This is your b, which is 1. So that's going to be plus 1 all squared. Now you're going to work this part out here. Alright. Take your calculator and work it out. This is going to be minus 4 over 4 minus 5 over 4, which is minus 9 over 4. Alright. You got that? Now, there's 2 options. I'm going with the option that I showed you yesterday, which is if you take out a common factor, then you must multiply it back inside and then check the formula which one you are using. So this is going to be 4 times term 1, which is 4 times x plus 1 all squared, and then 4 times term 2. I can see that 4 and 4 will cancel, so I end up with minus 9. Clear with that? Alright, so now this is grade 11 work. Okay, completing the square. What do we do now? We need to rewrite this as a square, that as a number squared. So 4 is, that's 2 squared times x plus 1 all squared, minus 9 will be 3 squared. Alright, now we transfer this information back into its correct position, okay, which is inside the square roots. This was the question. So now let's transfer it. So therefore we have the integral, we got 1 divided by the square root there, dx, and then this is now, let's write it down, this is your 2 squared x plus 1 squared, and that's 3 squared. Okay, and now let's look at this now. We see this here. This is our fraction. Okay, it's our fraction. Which one do we choose? There are 6 formulas there on your formula sheets. Which one is it? Is it this one here? Can you see this formula here? Right. This is a fraction with a square root. This is a fraction with a square root. But now, is it going to be this one or not? Let's check now. Right. So what do we have here now? We have 2 squared times x plus 1 all squared minus 3 squared. Okay, now the variable is first. So there's your variable here. And this part here is the constant, the number. Here, for this one, it's the constant first and the variable I mean x, or any term that has x there multiplied by it. Alright. Clearly, there is a difference now between that and that. You must recognize the difference there. Okay. You must see that this and this are completely different. In other words, where is this example? There's a check. There's a check. So let's compare. Look at this part and look at this part here. This one starts with the constant here. Here's the minus sign and then there's the variable here. So it is different from the one that I have here. Now, can you see the difference? Alright, so now, so therefore it is not that formula there. So you go to your formula sheets and this is the formula now. Can you see that? This formula starts with the variable first and then your constant is second. There are actually two formulas here in one. Can you see that? There's actually two. It depends on which one you have. Which one do I have? I have the one with the minus sign. So the minus sign is the one in the bottom. So I need to use that one here. Right, so you must be 100% clear with what's going on here. Right, so now completing the square is the main thing. And now it's a mesh. So therefore this is now going to equal to, clearly it is this one here. So it's going to be 1 over b. So let's write down our a, b and c. I mean our a, b and x. So here, let's compare. Now my b here is 2. Can you see that? B is 2 here. And the next thing here is x. Can you see as I'm pointing here? My x is x plus 1. And the constant a is 3. You're clear with that? Okay, as it is. So now the formula works 1 over b. So that's going to be 1 over 2. So there's my 1 over b there. Natural log. So that's ln absolute value there of bx. So that's going to be 2 times x plus 1 bx plus, there's a plus sign here, and then you got the square root of the same thing, the question, which is 4 times x plus 1 all squared minus, we got the minus here, minus a squared, so that's minus 9. Yes, when you are substituting into the formula here, it's pointless to go and write 4 as 2 squared. Okay, it's unnecessary. The only reason why we wrote 4 as 2 squared, so we can identify our a and our x there for completing the square. When you are doing the substitution, 2 squared is 4 straight, 3 squared is 9. Let's check. The minus is in the bottom, so it's a minus, and that is what it is. That's all, plus c. Alright, so have a look at this. We're dealing with the next one with 2 minutes. Our next exam type question. Here you have a fraction. Now there's no square root in the denominator. And we will see after we complete the square which formula are we going to be using. So step number 1 is always complete the square. The method does not change. Okay, it's just the numbers that are changing. So step number 1 is always take out a common factor to make the coefficient of x squared positive 1. So clearly you're taking out minus 4. So minus 4 that was there, divide by minus 4, you get a positive 1. 16 divided by minus 4 is a negative 4. And minus 13 divided by minus 4 is a positive 13 over 4. Double check, when you take out a negative, all the signs will change. So minus 4 times x squared is minus 4x squared. Minus 4 times minus 4x is positive 16x. A negative times a positive gives you a negative 4 and 4 cancel. You end up with your 13. Right, so that was taking out a common factor. you must double check this 3 times. Alright, because this is a common mistake. Once you take out the wrong common factor, everything you're doing is a waste of time after that. And because it will be wrong, you will choose the wrong formula. So you check this 3 times. Use your calculator, make sure everything is 100%. So now let's deal with completing the square. So when you are completing the square, copy down these first 2 terms in order, and then it's always plus half the coefficient of x squared minus half the coefficient of x squared, and then you copy down the constant at the end. So what is the coefficient of x? The coefficient of x here is minus 4. It is not 4. It is minus 4. So you take your minus 4 and you divide by 2. Minus 4 divide by 2. Always divide by 2. So now, so we got x squared minus 4x plus minus 2 in brackets all squared minus 2 all squared plus 13 over 4. We got that sorted out. So now we are at this stage here. We have this situation. You count 1, 2, 3. So you have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Because of the minus, there's the minus sign here. Can you see that? There's your minus here. And this will be factorized in one step. We don't think too hard. A minus b all squared. Okay, so now let's factorize that. So that's going to be minus 4, and then we have x minus 2 all squared, because your a is x, and the last term, term number 3, b, is minus 2. Okay, these you just work it out one time on the calculator. Right, so that's going to be minus, and then what do we have? Minus 4, so that will be minus 16 plus 13, which is minus 13 over 4. Double check me then. Correct. Right, so you work this one out. I've got minus 2 squared is 4, so that's minus 4 plus 13 over 4. So minus 4 plus 13 over 4, which will be minus 16 plus 13, minus 13 over 4. Correct? Alright, so now let's multiply the constant back inside. So minus 4 times term 1 is minus 4 times x minus 2 all squared. Minus 4 times the minus 13 over 4 will be a positive 13. Now, there is no formula that will start with a negative. So, you swap. So that's going to be 13 minus 4 times x minus 2 all squared. So what happened? Is there a mistake?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Getting 3.
You're getting 3?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's double check this one here. So when you work out that and that, you're like getting 3. Anyone else getting 3 there? You're getting minus 3 over 4. Oh yes, sorry, my mistake there. Minus 16 plus 13 is minus 3. I put minus 13. Sorry, yes. Minus 16 plus 13, which is minus 3. Okay, that is correct. Minus 3 over 4. So therefore now a negative and a negative will become a positive there. So that will be positive 3. You're clear with that? Alright, so always double check. You see like how I made a mistake over here? You double check it on the calculator, because if this is wrong, then we're going to choose the wrong formula. Right, so what happened now? Negative times negative is positive. We got a 3 there, so there's a 3 there. Now, let's rewrite them as squared. So that's going to be square root 3 squared minus 2 squared times x minus 2 all squared. Now, we're done with this. Transfer it back to your integration problem. Right, so now let's see what we have. So here we have dx all divided by, and this is now the square root of 3 squared minus 2 squared times x minus 2 all squared. Now which formula is it? Which formula are we going to choose now? You check your formula sheet. This one you will not find in the textbook, but definitely it's on the formula sheet. So we have a fraction. Here's the formulas with fractions. There's a fraction. There's a fraction. Which one is it going to be? This one or the second one? The first one or the second one? If it's the first one, why is it not the second one? Exactly. Okay, you must know, if it's the first one, you must know why it's not the second one. If it's the second one, you must know why it's not the first one. Alright, so the reason is 100% correct. It's because there's a negative sign in between the two, and we're starting with a, not only because of the negative sign. Remember, it's starting with a constant there. So your constant is first and your variable is second, but one of the main things is the negative sign. Right, so we are using that formula there. So we know that it is dx all over a squared minus b squared x squared, which is going to equal to 1 over 2ab. Learn absolute value of a plus bx, a minus bx plus c. So you copy down the formula very fast from your formula sheets. And now, let's not make a mistake. What is our a, b, and c? A, here's my a here. There's the a here, you can see that, which is square root 3b. There's the b here. So b is 2, and the x is everything inside the bracket there. So x is x minus 2. So now, this is equal to 1 over 2ab. So that's 2 square root 3 times 2. 1 over 2ab. Natural log, absolute value of a plus bx. So that's going to be square root 3 plus 2 times x minus 2. And then we got square root 3 minus 2 times x minus 2 plus c. It's a plus bx, a minus bx. Okay, so this is going to be 1 over 4 root 3 there. And we won't waste my time going and simplifying that. Let me just leave it as it is. If you want to, you can. If you remove the brackets, it's going to be 2x minus 4, but it's unnecessary to remove this one. Okay, 2 times x is 2x, 2 times minus 2 is minus 4, square root 3 minus 2x, and minus 2 times minus 2 is plus 4. This, obviously, if you're using your calculator, it will give you a rationalized denominator. So it will be square root 3 over square root 3, so it will be square root 3 over 36, alright? No, over 12. Square root 3 over 12. But anyway, if you use your calculator, it will give you a rationalized denominator. I'm not using a calculator. What am I saying? So you might go and wonder at home, where did I get this from? Okay, all I'm doing is multiplying 2 times 2. But the calculator will do this here. The calculator rationalizes your denominator, so that will be 1 over 4 root 3. And if I rationalize the denominator, that means it's going to be multiplied by square root 3 over square root 3, which becomes square root 3 over 4 times 3, which is the square root 3 over 12. So these two give you the same result. It's just this has square root in the denominator, this has the square root in the numerator. That's rationalizing the denominator. You don't have to worry too much about that. It's up to you whether you want to write it like that or like this here. Right. So check it. We're dealing with one more.